All right, what's up, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through what I'm calling right now an emergency SOP so that we can dominate Q4 because things are getting a little bit harder. And the whole entire reason for making this is because there's been things going on in the market that you probably yourself have been experiencing if you're doing deals. Maybe you felt a sudden shift around like end of August, sometime in September, with just what was happening with the sellers. And so I had some conversations yesterday with several of my clients. Probably about 5 or 6 of us had a 2-hour conversation as a group, just talking about what we're seeing right now, how we can solve it, and basically what are some best practices we can implement right now based on top of all the other fundamental things that I teach our clients inside of Level Up, as well as some of the fundamental things that you can find for free on YouTube. And so, and this doesn't even just stop and start with my clients. I was having a conversation with one of my business colleagues, friends, whatever. He owns another company. They do about 4 million in one of their businesses and several million in another business. So he's a very successful individual. And he was telling me the same things, right? Everyone is experiencing these pain points I've talked to over the last couple of weeks. And if they're not, they haven't realized it yet because maybe they're further away from their business. So if you are on the cusp and you're trying to grow your companies, make sure that Q4 is something that you can profit and make a lot of money in, so you can set yourself up for next year to dominate the spring and have a great summer as well. And then here's some things that I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to be going over marketing, sales, and dispo best practices. But the initial pains and the things that I'm seeing in the market right now is over and over and over again. Sellers just keep going with these offers that are like $30,000 to $50,000 more than mine or yours because some guy does not know what he's doing, right? So there's all these people out here like all these coaches, all these gurus getting people into wholesaling, right? So not going to name any names, but they're making money in their business and they're doing a great thing. They're helping people make more money. However, the problem is when people come into the industry, they know nothing about doing anything. They don't know anything about doing deals. And so they'll just put a number on a piece of paper because they're like, dude, the only way I'm even going to get a chance of getting a deal is getting a contract, right? And I'm gonna figure it out because that's what everyone says. Like, get a contract, figure out the deal, whatever. And you, at the beginning, you also just don't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And I'm not gonna hate on those guys, but there's an influx of people coming into the industry doing just that when the market's going down. Because if you're comping on 6-month comps, you're gonna come in 20, 30K higher in a lot of situations all the time. And so sellers don't know the difference and they need to be educated because they're just going to end up getting screwed over by these guys who don't know what they're talking about, which is really, really messing it up for us, people who actually know what the fuck we're doing. So that's number one. And obviously some of these things I'll talk about how they're going to solve those pain points, but that's number one. Number two is dispos generally just right now in the market. Doesn't matter if you're new, doesn't matter whatever. Dispos harder. And deal sizes are generally trending down on average. When every month, like for example, Atlanta, I was looking at FMLS. Let me pull it up actually. All right, so I'm on the FMLS, which is one of the main MLSs in Atlanta. You can see in June we capped out, which is pretty standard. Like normally June and July are like our top months in the market. So last year was a little bit early. Normally July is a little hotter. But from a median sales point perspective, we hit 399 in Atlanta, and then we dropped 7K. So that's pretty much 2% from June to July. Then we dropped maybe about a little less than 1% from July to August. And then August to September, we dropped 10K, which is like 2.5%, right? I mean, that's crazy. 2.5% decrease in 1 month. And normally in September, you can see here, like last year, we were at 390. Like we really only, from the peak, we only dropped 2%, which is pretty standard. Obviously the market was slower last year, but if you zoom out, that's like a pretty normal thing. And my fear and my worry is that this is going to continue on a downward trend as uncertainty increases, yada, yada, yada. Like, just talking to the average person, most people are very skeptical right now about real estate, about the stock market, about the economy, because it all feels like propped up. Even for myself, I'm like, man, what do I invest in? Because everything kind of feels risky. Everything feels high. And so I'm just kind of setting the scene for what people are thinking right now in the market. Rates are super high. I was talking to a guy last night at the pickleball court. We were playing pickleball with this guy for hours. And he's like, I was like, yeah, my interest rate on my house is like 6.5%. And he's like, dude, I have a 2.8 on my house in gold, and it's probably $1 million house if I had to guess, about $1 million. He's like, dude, I was like, yeah, I have a 6.5. He's like, dude, if I had a 6.5, no way could afford the house I live in now. And that's a house he wants to live in. And so my point is that's where most people are at. Like, they just can't afford what they want. And plus, selfishly, I'm also looking on MLS because, trying to buy an Airbnb that works, the numbers work. in a certain area of the market, and like just looking around in general, because I'm like, maybe I'll move, maybe I'll buy another, whatever. And there's nothing like that's actually like a deal right now. Everything's like, this all like sucks. Like none of it's good. And so my point is, everyone kind of feels that way. And so let me go back to the document here. But that's another piece. So everyone in general, dispos harder, deal sizes are smaller, people are more skeptical, whatever. And because of this, novations are generally sitting, most of them, if not all. Obviously, there's some other videos I dropped on like how we're underwriting those right now. So if you have any questions, DM me, or just ask me, and if you're a client, ask me in Discord. Cash buyers are holding off because they probably bought like 3 or 4 properties. Now they're sitting on all of them because they won't sell, or they underwrote them incorrectly. They went over budget on the repairs. Like I was just talking to my dad, who has a landscape construction company. They own they do like a lot of business around the Atlanta market. And he said price for materials in the last 4 years have tripled. That's crazy. Now, that's landscape stuff. I don't know every industry and exactly what it is, but all I know is materials are way more expensive. So people are going over budget more, money costs more now, etc. Sellers are in general, this is at least something that we've experienced, is they're less motivated on average. So is when you ask them, because I was talking to guys who are like in the weeds on the phones with sellers, and they're like, yeah, I'll like get to the point where it's like, what happens if you don't sell? And their answer is like, oh, I'll just keep it. It's no big deal. It's like there's no real urgency. Obviously, there's some people who do have to sell, but on average, people just seem like a little bit less motivated because it's like the pain of selling is like their pain of needing to sell and wanting to sell is not higher than the pain of like holding onto the property. So, maybe their mortgage is a little bit high, whatever. But if they're underwater like 20 grand and they got to bring 20 grand to the table, they're like, I'll just keep paying the monthly payments a little bit uncomfortable or whatever. I'll just figure it out because I don't have 20 grand to bring to the table or whatever. And so we're seeing a lot of people underwater, no or little equity because they bought in 2021, 2022, 2023, and they're trying to sell now. And that's really challenging because, people, there's even a deal we have right now that, we actually should be putting it together this week and finalize it today. But we had it at 250. Seller bought it for 285. No, sorry. Seller bought it for 260 in 2018. We have it under contract at 250. Oh, that's a great deal. Whatever. We are going to accept an offer for 260 to sell it. And so we're trying to put a deal where she comes to 230 to get it done. And so in 2018, you would think the property would be worth more now because the real estate went way up than it was in 2018. However, it wasn't. And so that's one of the very interesting caveats right now is that we're seeing happen pretty consistently is appraisals are killing deals, equity is killing deals, and overall, people just don't really have the motivations to do it. So those are the pains, kind of the situation that we're dealing with right now. And so if I missed anything, I'd love to have some more feedback from other people. However, I spent 4 or 5 hours yesterday going through and figuring out how to actually solve this problem for myself and for my clients. And so what I want to talk to you guys about is basically some of the solutions that I want to implement. And I think that if you do all these things, these are like the core pieces that are going to really help you go for the next level. Some of it you're probably already doing, and it's just going to be focusing on it more to do it better. And some of the other things are going to help you with the actual, some of the other things are just going to help you with some more brands, some more trust. But the really big thing that I want to highlight is at the very end, I'm actually going to talk about like what I think are the biggest and most important handful of things that you can implement if you just go with just wanting to do 1 or 2 in each category. So look, I'll start with marketing. Biggest thing first is running a pain first marketing approach. And so essentially what this means is targeting people in pain or in distress. So for example, I'll show you guys, let me pull up, I'll show you guys like one example of what I'm talking about. And so let's see. I'll do this one right here. This is a decent one to look at. And obviously with clients, you all get these scripts. You can ask me about this. And I have some videos already filmed on this and sent documents on how to do it yourself. However, for everyone watching this, I'll kind of walk through. So this is just basically a tough spot is the angle. So it's kind of general, kind of wide, but it's essentially supposed to hit on people who, are motivated sellers generally and like need to sell. So hook 1 would be like, owning a home is great until life starts to beat you down. You got to pay the bank off, pay back the bank, you got to pay the credit cards down, and then Uncle Sam comes knocking, right? It's tax time, whatever. Hook 2 is when homeownership isn't going your way, everything keeps pushing you further and further down in a hole. Maybe your car broke down, you missed a mortgage payment, or maybe your income stream dried up. Hook 3 is, hey, if you're a homeowner experiencing some hardships, I don't know, maybe you got like laid off or aren't sure how you're going to pay your bills, or maybe just family circumstances are just making life hard. look, if that's you, you really want to keep your house, but you're not sure if it's worth the stress and the struggle, and you're looking for a way out. My name is Dave, and I've been helping sellers here locally sell their house a simple and easy way. We do it in an easy, private way, no showings, no neighbors, no BS. The way it works is simple. You submit info to us, we give you a call, blah, blah, blah. You can get the gist, right? And obviously, I'm not using tonality and filming the ad the proper way, but the point is, and do that, medical bills stacking up, behind on payments, etc. And all these different angles allow you to talk directly to homeowners who are actually in a situation that they more than likely need to sell more on average than someone who's just opting into a fast for cash ad, who wants a cash offer, a cold call, or a text, or whatever, or someone, potentially replying to your direct mail. The point is, like, if we can get people in the door like that, we're gonna have a higher chance of converting them. So as you guys know, what happens with marketing and with this industry is there's always competition, right? So for every offer you give, there's an offer coming right behind you, right? Especially with how many more people are in the business. And so what you need to do is you need to create a retargeting campaign that's doing the follow-up for you and building a little bit more brand, a little bit more trust with your sellers so they know who you are and actually that you're legit. And look, this is not gonna work for every seller. Obviously, we know how sellers are. Not every single one of them is going to make the best logical decision for them. They're going to a lot of times do what's best to get the highest number on a piece of paper. However, that's not who we're looking for, because that's not who's going to sign a contract anyways with us if we're operating with integrity and ethical practices, where we're locking up deals that we believe are going to sell and we will buy at the number that we're locking it up at. And so my point is, we're looking for people who maybe they've already been burned by someone, they know someone who's been burned, or they just don't have a good taste in someone's mouth and they want to work with someone who's like reliable. And so what we want to do is we want to upload our CRM to a retargeting campaign. So, exactly how to do this if your client talk to me. But basically what we want to do is take all the people who we would follow up with through text, through email, through phone calls, and we want to put them into some retargeting campaign on Facebook. And that allows us to basically stay in front of these people, show them proof that we're good at what we do and we know what we're talking about. And what that really looks like is it comes out in our trust building sequence. So what we do is we have testimonials, we have case studies, we have anything that's going to basically show that we're the authority. We're going to show that these people, and we're also going to show them the other side. Like, hey, here's where we've messed up and what we do to not do that again. Here's some of our worst reviews. Here's some of our best reviews. Here's how bad things could actually be. But here's what we do on our side to actually make it work out for you. At the end of the day, like, we provide you a service and we're going to do our best effort to make that work well. That's basically the frame that we're trying to shift. Is like, hey, all the problems, every business makes mistakes, and we just want to show you that, hey, when we make a mistake, we make it right with you. On the worst side, so how bad can the things get? And also on the best side, like, how do we actually perform what we're doing? How good are we? Case studies, testimonials, third-party stories, example, etc. And so we're going to film 10 to 20 videos explaining our process. So handling objections, Google reviews, case studies, seller testimonials. And these are basically topics that build trust with sellers and separate you from your competition. So, for example, like, I have some SOPs here that are specifically for our clients with a full step-by-step process, and so all of our clients get access to this. But essentially, you're just educating them what's happening and who's the authority and why you're the authority. We're also going to want to educate them what's happening in the market right now. So, if you bought a flip, if you've done any deals, it's like a major L. So, for example, one of the things that happened to us is we had this novation that initially was going to be like an $80K profit, and now I think we just signed and it's like a $35K profit because the buyers backed out the day of closing, then we had to buy the house, and then blah, blah. You get the gist, right? Things like this happen quite often. And talking about those L's and how the market's changed, obviously I wouldn't necessarily put your profit margins in all these videos, but talking about what you try to make, and then how much you were going to sell it for, and then how much you ended up selling it for, right? So it's like, if we were at 700 and we end up selling it for 645 or 650, that's a pretty big gap and a pretty big difference in price. And it's like, we see this on the front lines and we have to adapt very quickly because this is how we make money. We're in and out of deals. And so sellers need to understand that, right? It's a part of the education process. And then on the last page, I give some breakout videos and more of my own examples through my marketing channel as well. So if you book a call with me, you'll actually be redirected to that page where you can watch things about, how we help people out, what are testimonials, what are case studies, what's the worst things, blah, blah, blah. Then we're going to take those pieces of content, and we're going to message them right to sellers. So, for example, let's say, here's what the 5 emails and texts I'd say you watching this could go and make. So, number one is, who's your company and why are you legit? So in here, who's your company, what's your story, just keep it brief. That's not what they're there for, but why are you legit? So like give them contacts to reach out to, like title companies, closing attorneys, give them lenders to reach out to, give them investors to reach out to, give them, show them people on your team and like what they look like and what they do and their specialties and how good they are. Talk about all the deals you show, if you have a spreadsheet of all the deals that you've closed, show that. The point is like you're trying to show them like, hey, here's what we've done and here's our business history. Here's why we're legit. The next thing is your worst and best reviews. So open up your Google reviews and show them, hey, here's our 1-star reviews. Here's our 5-star reviews. Here's a story on both. So our 1-star review, we sent someone a bunch of mail. They got upset. Okay, hey, sorry, we're trying to operate our business. We send mail out with offers on them, and sometimes people get upset. It's not anything personal. That's just, unfortunately what happens sometimes. And hey, that's if they're upset enough to go on and leave a Google review, they're completely able to do that. Another one, and maybe someone had a bad experience with you. Address the story. Tell your side of the story. Like you would reply to someone's Google review, tell your side of the story and like what you guys did to fix it, take accountability. And also like, address the elephant in the room. And here's the problem is most of you guys don't have a fucking Google review. If you do, you have like 5. 3 of them are good, 2 of them are bad, or whatever the case is. So you need to go and start getting Google reviews so that you actually have something to show people, right? If you don't have Google reviews, obviously just talk about situations that you've had with sellers and just open up the curtains to maybe text or maybe to threads that you've had that show proof of both sides, right? People getting upset and also people being very happy, right? So third one is going to be how your company makes money and calculate offers. So talk about your business model, talk about how you calculate offers, be transparent here. Obviously, don't make it look like you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars off each deal, but hey, we're in the business to make money, and so we want to make a deal that works for you and works for us. We're not a charity here, and that's very easy to understand. I always tell sellers that's like we're here to make a profit. We're not trying to make an unreasonable profit, but hey, we gotta run a business. We got people to pay, we got mouths to feed, and I'm gonna give you something fair, something that we can both agree on. How to spot a fake offer. We're gonna want a video on how to spot a fake offer, right? How to spot someone who's just putting a piece of number on there. What's gonna happen? Look, again, at the end of the day, not everyone's gonna believe you, but some people will, and those are the people we're looking for. Last one is the worst case scenario for someone who's working with you. What can happen? So what truly, like everyone thinks about, like most consumers are thinking, how can they get absolutely hosed in this situation? But basically have systems for how you don't do that and how you're better than that, right? So, maybe it's like a situation where you need to cancel a deal, right? It's like, hey, if we ever misprice your property, here's what's going to happen. This is the worst thing that happened is we tell you we can pay more money than we can. Here's what our process is to make sure that it's fair and reasonable to you so you don't waste your time. And you also understand that what we're doing is ethical and moral. And so you're going to be upfront with that. And then that way they're able to understand, hey, yeah, this company seems like it makes sense. Like that, if they mess up, right, they're going to own their mistake and they're going to come back and talk to me about it. They're not going to stream me out to the last day and just, whatever. And so my point is you want to be very clear about what your process is going to do and how you're providing a great service to people, because that's why people work with you, is because they want a good service. Something I'm playing with the idea of is when the lead is created, actually sending a little credibility package to the seller's address. So when the lead comes in, obviously we're trying to get an appointment as fast as possible. And so, it takes probably, 5 to 7 days to send out a letter, whatever, if you have an automation in your system. But sending out a credibility package or a letter from the CEO just to them adds an extra touch, an extra brand element, something no one else is going to do, and allows us to stand out from our competition. So that's a lot of things on the marketing side. If I was going to talk about the 80-20 of what we could really do, I'd say really focus on like who you're targeting and targeting more pain-focused people. That's going to be really big. The next thing is I would also have a basic, at least welcome series. It's like 5 emails and texts that basically walk through what to expect working with you, that have reviews, that have testimonials, shows the good and a little bit of the bad sprinkled with the bad always needs to be turned into good, right? It just can't just be bad, like, hey, we suck. It needs to be like, this is a mistake we made and this is how we fixed it. And then being able to share those out to people so that they watch that and they're like, okay, this seems like a solid company. Every time, it's going to increase your text open rates, including your company name. People are going to watch and be interested in what you have to say because they're considering working with you at this point, right? They've engaged in some kind of level of some level of engagement, right? And so those would be the bare minimum things that I would work on. It's not going to take crazy time. It's going to take you a day to knock those things out and to move on. You'll have it forever. So that's really the main things I'd focus on. From a sales perspective, well, sales is very important, and there's a long list of things we can do here. I think it starts first with like the no contact or like intro process, basically. So what we're gonna do on day 0 is 3 times three times dial on lead creation. We're gonna send a sales rep loom. Basically, this is just us. So we're gonna send the sales rep loom in the text, and we're gonna leave them a voicemail, and we're gonna 3 times dial, text, voicemail in a day as well. So we're gonna call them 6 times in the first day. The loom video is basically gonna be like me filming a quick video, introducing myself as a sales rep, introducing myself as like the person on their file, and that I'm going to be taking care of them and getting them an offer. I'm going to share a little bit about myself, kind of be a little bit open, like make me sound like a real human. It's going to be manual, but it only takes like 45, 50 seconds, 60 seconds to do. And then I'm going to maybe, if I notice anything on their file that I can relate to, resonate with, I'm going to try to do that and just have a very brief conversation about it. I dropped an example here for all the clients you guys can watch. As far as if you're not a client, obviously, you got the gist. I explained it to you. Day 1 to 6, so the next 6 days, we're going to double dial twice a day, and then we're going to send 1 text, and we're going to send a voicemail twice. So 1 text, 2 voicemails. The reason I like voicemails and texts is because, truthfully, if you get a random phone number, the odds of you replying to that thing is pretty low. And if we follow a little bit more of a branded approach with some of the marketing things where we're showing, the one thing I forgot actually, on the marketing, sorry guys, on the marketing side is when someone becomes a lead. So when someone becomes a lead in your system from any lead source, we need to retarget them on Facebook. We're going to retarget them with testimonials, case studies, the breakout videos you film, Google reviews, branded stuff that's going to build trust with people that allows us to follow up with them over time. And so that's one thing I forgot. So if you're doing that, and then you're sending voicemails and texts with your company name in it, they should be seeing you on another platform, and then therefore they recognize at least who your company is. So that should increase your response rate. And then if someone's like, people obviously don't answer, right? And that's just part of it. And sometimes it takes a lot of messages and calls to get someone on the phone, but you have a better chance of getting a call back. You have a better chance of them at least remembering who you are and be like, yeah, I need to talk to them at some point, but it's not the time right now. So that's that. The post-appointment setting call, this is the next piece. So if this is only if you're doing a setter-closer model, so if you have an appointment setter, lead manager, follow-up specialist, basically what you want them to do, obviously if this is someone who's overseas, it's probably not going to work. But if it's someone who's stateside, basically what we want to do is we're going to send a Loom video that breaks down everything you sent to the home buying specialist, and that's coming from the setter or follow-up specialist, lead manager, whatever you want to call it. And so this basically just says, hey, I took extreme care and pride, and I value you and your time and what you told me, and I just want to let you know what I sent over and what he's going to be going over with you. So that way, it's very straightforward. Just, again, 60 seconds, just typed out in the CRM. Hey, here's the case, here's whatever. Add context to it, and then let them know when they're going to be reaching out, that everything's confirmed on our side, and we look forward to working with them. Very simple, very simple. But that's going to be one thing that you can do that'll go a long ways. The next thing is going to be the post-offer call Loom. So this is if there's no contract. So once we have a conversation, we make them an offer, and they're like, I need to think about it. Let's make a call on this time, whatever. And we can't overcome the objection or the smoke screen or whatever is going on, right? Then what we want to do is we want to send a Loom video to them. And this is going to be everything that we plan to do for the seller based on our conversation. So it's going to hit on any objections, any pain points, and overall anything that they might be thinking about or events they could have happen to them between now and the next time we speak. So, if you know that you couldn't just get past an objection, it's like you don't want to directly say because you probably hounded them a little bit and potentially, they might have gotten a little frustrated with you, whatever, if you couldn't get past it. But it's like some resource or some knowledge or some insight on things to think about with that objection between now and the next call. And basically you're just trying to plug seeds of thought and plug more certainty and more care and hey, no one else is doing this into their heads because they're going to believe hey, if they get this kind of service in a sales process, then it's going to be fantastic on the back end. And so it's a real big representation of how you're going to treat them. So you want to basically make sure that they feel really understood. They understand, they feel like they can trust you guys, and that's kind of the point of it. This is just going to be, you send it the day, the day of the offer call at the end of the day, or the next morning. Depends on how far your next contact is, but it shouldn't be more than, I would say not more than 48 hours usually for something like that. Manager survey calls. If you're not doing manager survey calls for your sales team on deals that were close or maybe had good motivation, then you definitely should be doing those. If you don't know how to do manager survey call, message me. I can send you a script and talk to you about it. It's pretty simple. Basically, you come in as a customer service rep, and you're going to be just opening up about, hey, did they handle everything correctly, blah, 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 and then you're going to move into like, why didn't they sign? And then you can move into motivation. Obviously, there's a way different scripting than what I said, but that's the concept. Next thing is focusing on educating unrealistic sellers. So everyone has unrealistic sellers, and you can spend all day on a call trying to talk to them and figure it out, but it's most times just a waste of time. And so instead of trying to get them to sign, what you want to do is, and sometimes you don't even give them an offer because they already told you they got another offer that's just no way going to close. I would say most of the time you should give them an offer to know that you're serious and that you're actually going to close, because that just makes it seem more legit. But then you're going to spend most of your time just educating them based on what can happen, right? So here's what they're going to do. Here's what can happen. Here's what a real buyer would do. Here's what a fake buyer would do. Yada, yada, yada. And then if you have any kind of assets that you can send them, basically showing you like credibility. So contact my title company. Here's all the deals I've done. Yada, yada, yada. Here's all the HUDs. If you can send anything to that after or show them to it on the phone call, that's going to make it go a lot further, so that they can actually go and do some due diligence on you, and they can go and call some people. So give them your title company's phone number. Have them call them and verify that you're actually legit. Send them like, a screenshot of your Google Sheet with all the deals you've closed, and all the addresses so they can look it up and confirm. Send them like a picture of your file of all your HUDs or whatever the thing is that you need, right? But something, or however you would prove it, but send them some kind of proof to show that, hey, we actually do this, and I just want to like show you that we do this. And that's very, very big focus, is educating these sellers so that when they do, something does happen, let's say, hey, like they do go and sign with someone else, because that's probably what they're going to do. They're going to sign with that offer that's 30, 40K higher. And then they're going to either, string them along for a while. They're going to price drop them, whatever. Just tell them what's going to happen. And like, hey, if you don't hear anything by this time, call me and I'll be able to help you out. And that's the importance of having private money, so you can take deals down at low prices if you need to last minute. It's also the importance of building a good relationship with these people, and also following up with them throughout the process, even if they sign with someone else that is not going to perform, right? You're going to get a lot of deals from those people if you just wait and be patient rather than locking it up higher. And then the next one would be going in person if you can. So we were talking about this is kind of a big debate, but most of the guys who are getting the deepest deals consistently are going in person, right? Not that you have to, but there's kind of two models, like in person in one market or virtual in a lot of markets. And so the virtual in a lot of markets is tough, and you need to be focused more on the marketing side and sending them more information. If you're in person, obviously you need a little bit less because you're there belly to belly, and you're going to be able to get like better deals consistently. And so if you can go in person, I would recommend it. If you're virtual, you should 1000% be in multiple metros. 3 to 5 is what I would say. Underwriting. So one, underwrite conservatively. Right now, pretty much on every deal, giving concessions, hold times longer, and prices are basically just selling for less than you imagine, especially if you're as is. Like, if you're as is, we're dropping 10% off the price right away, no matter what, depending on like what's actually happening. In certain areas, like there's a deal that I looked at in Denver. It's $450. Like, you don't need to discount it because like that it's the same condition pretty much. Like it's as is, and if anything, ours is maybe slightly nicer. So you got to be very obviously like train your team and like have the outliers be able to be understood. But in general, sellers' houses are worse than most comps that we look at. Like, say 95% of the time, the house is worse than anything we're looking at because it's just outdated. Maybe there's like mold, maybe it's dirty, and it's, whatever. It's just not like the carpet's not in good shape, and you just got to expect that. And so it's going to sell for less unless you're going to do the work. And you can go off ARV. The next piece is going cash first, being very selective on novations, and then referring retail stuff out to listing agents. I really think this is the best model right now, because if you just novate everything, you're not going to sell most of it unless you're going heavy on the retrades. You could totally do it. It's just a lot heavier lift. And I think going cash first and being selective on the novations you do take, or like something that has worked also is like partnering with the sellers to do it. So like we just got a contract signed with the seller where we're basically set up a deal like, hey, like if we make over a certain amount, we'll pay you more money on anything over that. And we've done that some, but I think now it's coming back more and more because sellers do want to participate in the upside. And I had another client who, he did a deal where it's like, he's like, I want to make 10% return on my money. That's what he told the seller. He's like, if I get over 10% return, I'll split it. I'll give you 10% of whatever else we make. And that allowed him to get, literally, this is actually kind of an interesting story. One client hit me up on like, it's the 10th of October now. So he hit me up 5 days ago. And he had this deal. So 5 days ago, he hit me up. One of the clients hit me up. He's like, I got this deal for $405 in Denver. Is it a deal? I was like, you need it $350, really. I'd say it's $350 if you're going to wholesale it or buy it or do cash. Funny enough, one of the cash buyers I know actually came in at $350 on the house. So my point is, if you're going to take it down, you want to be at $350. That's just kind of the number you need to be at because it's only going to sell for $450. Maybe $460, and if you do a little bit of work, maybe $480, but it's gonna be a lot longer hold time, like 3 months. You only get rid of it in two to 4 weeks. You got to be at $450 to $460. So, point is, that's basically the numbers. The next day, another client, also in Denver, texted me about the same deal and said, like, "Hey, I have this deal. What do you think it sells for?" And he has it at $360. It's interesting because he has it substantially lower. And the reason he got it lower is because, one, he's going to actually close the person out in the timeline that they want to be closed out in. Two, he's actually partnering with the seller on the back end after he makes his percentage. So the point is, like, there's some creative things you can do and teach your team to get deals done, to get them cheaper, to make sure things are happening. So I'm not saying that's the most scalable model. However, if you need to get a deal done that's a little bit tight, those are things that you can potentially pitch to get cash deals out to where even if you split a deal like 70-30, for example, with someone, but you have it at a price where you can't lose, then that's a better deal than getting 100% at a price that's a little bit shaky. You know what I mean? So always think about how can I get the deal at the price that's a no-brainer, and be willing to like make an exception right now and having creative ways to get things done. And then that's essentially it. On that part, the next part would be when the contract's signed, we want to set really hard expectations with the seller. So, basically what that means is that, hey, like when we get the dotted line on the paper signed, on the DocuSign, on PandaDoc, whatever you're using, we want to make it very clear that we are signing a legally binding agreement and that if you back out, we have the ability to prevent any future sale of the contract. On our end, we do promise that we're going to do our best and we're going to give you great service, we're going to communicate. But just to reiterate that what we just did, we just signed a legally binding agreement where you're stating legally that you're working with us only to sell your property. So you're a client of ours, we're going to treat you with great service, but I just want you to know that we intend to purchase your property, and legally you are agreeing to sell it to us. And so basically there's an exact script that is in the Discord. If you're a client, you can have access to, you already have access to as of maybe 15, 20 days ago. My point is, make sure you implement that because sellers are backing out at an all-time high because, again, everyone's coming in with a higher offer right after yours. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of that. As far as this and the 80-20, oh, man, honestly, I'd say you got to do most of this, honestly, on the sales side right now. The only one that maybe you could bounce around on is going in person. Like, I don't necessarily think you have to go in person. I think it's definitely better. But you should definitely be in multiple markets. It's going to lower your cost per lead. It's going to allow you to get the lower hanging fruit in each market. But as of a whole, like you gotta be focused on all of these things and really lock in on the sales side if you actually want to continue to make money right now. And I really don't think there's one thing you can do. You just got to get better all around. And that's not the answer most people want to hear, but I really do think that's the answer that you have to hear. Like most people right now, like I was talking to a guy who's done thousands of deals, and he's back in the driver's seat, closing deals. It's just where the market's at right now. And if you built on a shaky foundation and didn't really focus on getting your team as locked in as you are, and you're not really, really heavily focused on closing every deal and like being super dialed in and you being really bought into that and you just kind of put it on autopilot, it's tough. And so the point is, like, a lot of operators are stepping back into the acquisitions role, and that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the place we are right now. And you got to put money on the board. But doing these things are going to help you when the market gets a little bit better to dominate even more. So dispositions. All right. I think the the first bullet is the most important bullet on this entire one. maximizing every deal. So I see people all the time who just wholesale and make a 20, 30K, 40, even 40K spread, even 50K spreads, which are, I mean, don't get me wrong, like that's amazing fast money. However, where you really start to amplify your business and get to the next leg, and specifically right now, I think it's more important than ever, is when you take that good deal and you make it a great deal by taking it down and making, instead of 20K, 50K, or instead of 40K, 80K. And so making the good deals great is what I'd focus on. And that even allows you to take down some deals that are okay deals and make them good deals by flipping. Now, obviously there's a lot more inherent risk with flipping. So, if you don't know how to flip, or you've never bought a property, definitely do some due diligence and make sure you're not going to lose your ass on the deal. So hit me up. I can help you out on that. Message me on Discord, message me on Instagram, wherever the best is. But the point is, you can definitely get hosed on this. And I wouldn't say, take down 10 flips if you have no money. If you have, no money, partnering with someone is going to make the most sense to get some money up, or to make a good deal into a better deal. And also just by having the ability to close someone out in 7 days, think about it, having the ability to close someone out in 7 days is going to get you deeper discounts. If you can close in 7 days, you will get a deeper discount than someone who's going to close in 30 or 45 or 50 or 60 days, depending on what the seller needs. Now, that's just the facts, and it's not going to be every seller. Not every seller needs to sell in 7 days. But for the ones that do, for example, the one Denver deal, the guy needed to close in 3 weeks. So doing a novation is not an option. The only option is to cash him out, and the only way to cash him out is at that certain price. There's no way you're gonna after all the fees and stuff, if you bought it at 400K, you make $5,000. So it's not really gonna make sense there. So my point is, if you can close in 7 days and you have those resources, lenders, cash yourself, whatever, it's gonna give you a big upper hand. And you're going to be able to do more deals that you couldn't otherwise. So get that resource if you don't have it. There's no fucking reason not to have it. Go and find the resource, be resourceful. Work with someone like myself, go find lenders, or get quotes from hard money companies and see what they can do for you. But you got to figure that out. It's just the way the market's going. So yeah, anyways, I'll get off my soapbox on that, but you guys sort that out. And I know there's some people who are wholesale. I'm only going to wholesale. I just don't think for 95, 98% of people that that's the model. The entire reason we do real estate is to do bigger and bigger deals. I think in wholesaling I don't believe is designed to be a business that goes to 10, 20, 30 million, unless you're one of the best operators in the world. I do think getting to 2 million a year is a great business. It is a great business to do 2 million a year and to have a small team where you elevate your deal size by doing new builds, by doing bigger flips, by that kind of thing. So my point is, start to look at maximizing each deal. I think it's the way that you inevitably have to grow this company. So that's that. Next thing, dispoing off market, right? You got to always be getting new cash buyers right now. And so you need to create a new cash buyer outreach process. If you're in Level Up, we've done multiple videos. At the Miami event, we had Charles come and talk about how they're disposing 350 deals off market cash and his exact process. We've had all kinds of different people talk about their dispo process. So if you need anything on that, I could link the thing. I'll link the things on here after this, so you get access to all those trainings in the process that is best to use right now to make sure that you're getting offers on every deal and have an outreach process. And then if you're not a client, you just got to make sure you build a system to where you can get new buyers in every single day, every single week, who are actually buying in today's market right now. And so if you don't have that, you need to start doing it and put an emphasis on it, because otherwise your deals are just going to go flat and be selling. You probably know that. So, I'll leave a link to Investor Base. It's one of the tools that we use down in the bio. So it'll be down below this, but definitely go and sign up. I think you get like $200 off or something like that by using my code. It's just code Chandler. So that's that. Next thing is dialing a retrade process. So not for every deal. Obviously, it's not our goal is to retrade every deal. We are going to retrade deals when we mess up, and we just need to let them know. But it's not from a perspective of we're making them do it. That's not possible. They have to agree to it. But having a retrade process to when we make a mistake, at least giving them the option to work with us at a certain price. That's why we need to get offers on everything, no matter what. Or when the seller lies about condition, we're going to get a retrade because that's just, hey, you told us the roof was fine, the roof is leaking, and hey, that's it's going to cost some money to repair, and we need to be compensated for that. That's just not what we had in in our quote. So, you need to be, as the middleman, and this is going to be an overall arching standpoint from the dispo process, is everyone is trying to take money from you as the middleman. When you are trying to make the middle of something, it could be a car, it could be software, it could be whatever. Everyone is trying to make money from you and take money from you. Sellers are trying to get more, buyers are trying to pay for less. So if sellers want you to pay more and buyers want to pay you less, the middle goes from here to here. Therefore, it gets smaller. And so what we have to do as a wholesaling company is we have to keep the sellers as low as possible, and we have to push the buyers as high as possible to keep the middle bigger. And so every single deal has to be maximized, even if it's $3,000. $3,000 over 100 deals is $300 grand, right? Yeah, that's $300 grand. $3,000 over 10 deals is 30 grand. If you look at 30 grand or 300 grand or whatever deals you're doing annually, and you're able to add $3,000, think about having that much more money in your bank account. That's literally what it is. It's just extra net profit. So you got to train disposition sales, and you got to be really, really good at getting sellers lower when needed, ethically, right? I'm not saying go and, there's people out there who literally lock things up where they know they can't sell it and then they just retrade later. Terrible business model, terrible people. Don't do that. Not bad morals. What I'm saying is lock it up where you think it makes sense based on what you know. If what you were told is wrong, get it for lower. If you made a mistake, be honest about the mistake you made and then try to get it lower and work a retrade. And you should be able to get a lot of them if you do it right, but it shouldn't be on most deals. It should be on some deals. And as the market's correcting, this is just part of the process. If you go to a retail transaction, everyone retrades on every deal. So it's not wrong to retrade when it makes sense, right? It only makes sense to retrade when there is a reason to. When I bought, for example, I did a retail deal last year where I bought my primary house. The roof needed work, right? It had some hail damage. So what did I do? I got a $7,000 retrade because the roof needed work. The HVAC was older than they stated. So I got a retrade for that. It's these little things, hey, no one told me this when I made my offer. These things came up. I'm getting a retrade for it. It's just the way it fucking works. If someone lies to you to your face, you go and buy a car and then you get there and the car has double the miles on it than what they told you, you're going to want it for less money. It's the way things work. And so on the sales side, when buyers come to you, what do you think they're going to do when you don't tell them everything? They're going to ask for a retrade. So we need to be transparent, tell them everything up front. That way when they come for a retrade, hey, you already knew that beforehand, so that's your fault. Why are you coming for a retrade? You need to have a sales process. And so if you're in Level Up, I have a sell deals for more training, which is negotiating with buyers, talking them up. And so it's all there, buyer negotiation. From this process, we were at about $7,000 per deal on the buyer side from their first offer to their final offer. So you can use that and it'll help out a lot. TC process and handoff. Most of Dispo is communication and speed. If you master those two things, most of the time you're going to be solid on retrades, you're going to be solid on getting deals to the closing table, and you're going to be solid on preventing sellers from backing out. And so there's obviously some small nuances in the Dispo process that we can talk about, from handing the baton to acquisitions of Dispo. And if you're a client, you already know those. And if you don't, message me and we can talk deeply about them. However, in the TC process and the handoff, what we want to do is we want to make sure we're getting from acquisitions to Dispo or whoever's the point of contact as soon as freaking possible. So live transfer. Do it in literally that conversation, that handoff is so important in setting up the speed at which we get pictures, transferring the baton from acquisitions to Dispo, so that Dispo or whoever, for us, Dispo rep is the point of contact, but for you, maybe it's your TC. The person who's the point of contact needs to be a salesperson, FYI. They need to be good at sales. They need to be amazing with people. People need to love them. Because otherwise your deals are going to flounder and fall apart. That needs to come up. They need to like each other. They need to build some reports, like a 20-minute call. We reset all expectations, acquisitions to Dispo. We reset all expectations for what actually is going to happen. What's the process? How many times we need to get in? How are we going to get in? How do we contact you? Condition of the property, more questions about the property, setting up pictures, and basically going through that, and then also talking about their situation, their goals, what they're going to do after this, to really understand the seller, their situation, reset expectations, anything acquisitions might drop, handle objections, whatever. And that conversation is going to allow us to basically move the power from acquisitions to dispo. So now they trust a dispo person. And then the frame at which we're handling on that initial call is, hey, my job is to sell your property in this many days, and to get you this amount of, or get you to help you sell your property in this many days, and to get you to where you want to go by here. I'm going to get you, again, you're going to get $200,000. That's my goal, is to get you $200,000 by this date, and I'm going to work as hard as I can for that. So I'm going to reach out to you a lot in the next coming days, because we're going to have pictures coming back. We're going to have our contractors, have our financial partners, and other people going out to the property. So we're going to have updates that I'm going to need to relay with you, just to work a couple things. I'm not going to be bugging you all the time, but if I do call you, it'll be short. It'll be important to getting the deal done on time, so that you can get on to the next phase of your life, insert whatever that is. And so just make sure that if I do call you, I do text you, answer, just hit me back as soon as possible. Make sure to say my number, whatever. And so we're just building a good relationship, setting the frame of what's going to happen. And then boom, now we got to go from contract to marketing in 5 days. So how do we do that? We got to get pictures right away. We got to make sure they're coming right away. We got to make sure our process for how do we get things up and running and make our marketing package correctly done. We got to do our buyer outreach, whatever. And then once that's up and marketing within 5 days, when we get pictures back, obviously we're going to talk to the seller. We're going to let them know what happened. So anytime we have something coming on with the property, where we get pictures, where we get an update, where someone goes out to the property, we're talking to the seller about it, letting them know what's going on. We're not going to bug them over something that's stupid. However, if something is going on, we just want to let them know with a text. If it's something light, it doesn't really matter. It's like, hey, here's an update with where we're at. Just want to give you a heads up. Or if it's something heavier, like, hey, pictures came back bad, we need to talk about the condition. We need to call them. We're not texting them that shit. We're going to call them. We're going to talk to them and let them know what's going on. Not asking for the retrade, but we're just having the conversation with them. Next thing is, after we get the deal marketed, if it's cash, we're going to go 7 days from marketing to assigned. 7 days. Really, we want to be faster than that, but we only get 3 offers minimum for each property. We're going to have these things assigned in 7 days. That allows us, if we need to get a retrade, we can get a retrade. We have this thing done. We come back with an offer. We come back with a closing date, etc. Same thing with novations. 14 days. That gives us time if someone, backs out, whatever. That's the case. Also, on the underwriting side and the acquisition side, if we can't sell it in 14 days, why are we locking it up? It's pointless. Don't fucking waste our time. List that property, get a lower price, whatever is needed, and move on, right? Because otherwise, if we can't sell it in 14 days, there's rare occasions where people, on the acquisition side, where people have a lot of time, they're cool with waiting a ton of time, and that's just something that we can do. And if the seller is willing to do a longer term deal, then make sure you set that expectation on the front end, right, with your novation. So if it's going to take 90 days to sell it, then have that conversation with the seller, right? If it's going to take 90 days to close it, have that conversation with the seller, set those expectations. More than likely, they're just going to want to list the property for more, because that's just what it takes to get the deal done. I already said this, but make sure you're getting offers from every buyer. That means even if it's $100,000 lower than your asking price, get the offer, try to make some demand, try to work a deal, at least have something to come back to the seller with. At the end of the day, if you don't have an offer, you don't have a deal. So, if you don't have a buyer, someone willing to purchase property, you don't have a deal, it's no possibility of even making money unless you're going to be the buyer. So, at least it gives you a chance to make money. The next thing is going to be communicate every time there is an exchange. So we need to update or visit with the seller about their property. Every time there's an update or a visit to the property, we need to update the seller, whatever that is. I already said that, but the point is we need to be talking to them minimum 1 time per week. So what a lot of people do is maybe they get the deal sold. As we did this too, is we got the deal sold in 10 days, for example. Then no one talks to the seller and they back out at closing, or they're trying to, and we have this whole shit show. And so what has helped a ton is talking to them once a week, just about closing, where we're at, how everything's going, update, blah, 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 title, yada, 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 whatever's going on. Or, hey, we need this document from you. Or, do you have any questions or anything we can help with, whatever. Just basically talking to them, showing face, letting them know we're still on track, we're going to close, everything's good. That prevents them from accepting other offers. It prevents them from backing out. If they do have an issue and they start ghosting us and we're calling them once a week, we can at least try to handle it before closing, so we don't get to the closing table and just they don't show up, So at least we have some ideas. And another idea that you can do, I've thought about this, haven't ever done it, but when we get the contract signed, is sending the seller a small gift, right? So that could be, I don't know, if they really like beer, send them beer. If they really love Chick-fil-A, send them Chick-fil-A. If they really like sweet tea, send them a gallon of sweet, just something that is important to them. And that would go a long ways as well with these guys to basically like and have a little bit more trust. So, that's an idea. I don't have to implement that. But from Dispo, the most important thing is going to be speed and communication. and then maximizing deals. If you can focus on those three things, then you're going to have a good chance of doing deals. Because right now we're going to be doing less deals. More than likely, going to be doing less deals unless you're really ramping everything up. But probably going to be doing a little bit less volume. But the quality of deal that you do needs to be higher. So there's a lot of deals that, I was just talking to a guy yesterday, and he does 3 deals. He does about 2 deals a month on average. So he's doing 20 to 25K a month on average, but he's JVing every deal in the back end. I was like, well, bro, you could just double your deal size and do 40K a month instead of 20K a month. I mean, what would that do? That's pretty big. So, if you're not maximizing every deal, and that's just if he doesn't JV on a wholesale, then if he takes down to flip, then, instead of doing 40K a month, yeah, he might have to wait 4 months to make money on his first flip. But instead of, if he does that on average consistently, instead of making 40K a month with doing 2 full wholesales, he's going to make like 60 to 70K a month on 2 deals a month. And so my point is, if you're maximizing your deals and you're just profiting more, then you're just going to make more money, bro. So be doing that, be focused on that. Obviously, don't overextend yourself, don't be dumb. But my point is, look to maximize, look to make more money on each opportunity you do have so that you're making more. So hopefully it was helpful. If you guys have any questions, let me know. DM me on Instagram, message me on Discord. And if you are looking to join the group, stay ahead, make sure you're dominating Q4, be a part of a community that's actually at the top level with high-level achievers who are making money in the business. Hit me up, I'll hop on a call, and I can see if you qualify. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.